What better way for a son and a father to bond over than their mutual love for the Dallas Cowboys? Hi, I'm Michael Davis with my dad, Mack. Is it okay if I call you Mack?
Sure, that'd be perfectly fine, son.
All right, because guys, this is a star-studded son and dad duo on the Star-Studded Cowboys Network, powered by Fans First Sports Network, and this is Dad and the Boys. If you notice right now, you are watching our faces on Boom Broadcasting. So what's going on, right? So as you know, we started Boom Broadcasting on July 1st, about 3 weeks ago. And in that time, we have grown exponentially and over 300 subscribers right now. We're still doing the EA Sports College Football 25 giveaway to one of our first 500 subscribers. So be sure you're entered into that giveaway. But then I started talking. You guys know I used to do a Carolina Panthers podcast powered by Fans First Sports Network. And I started talking to a guy over there, and he's like, wait, you're not a Carolina Panthers fan? I'm like, no. Sorry, I'm not. And he's like, well, why'd you do the podcast? And Dad, I was like, I want to talk sports. I love talking sports. And he's like, well, wouldn't you want to talk about your own team? And I'm like, well, yeah. And then here we are. We're a part of Fans First Sports Network, starting a Dallas Cowboys channel, a Dallas Cowboys network for FFSN. That's why you have the logo in the top left corner of your screen. And I was like, I have one thing I want to do. Well, two. One, I want to do it on Boom Broadcasting. Like, you guys are supporting our channel. You guys deserve all the content I'm putting out. And we're doing a lot more. Dallas Cowboys, by the way, will not be the only one covered on Boom Broadcasting. Likewise, not the only team covered on Fans First. They have a plenty of teams covered over there. So be sure, if you're listening to the Boom feed of this, you go over to Fans First, and if not, then you come over to Boom for other special content. My second caveat was I wanted to do a podcast with the guy who said that I needed to be a Dallas Cowboys fan. That was the one rule in our household, and that was the one rule for me to do this podcast. So welcome officially to Dad and the Boys. And for his Boom Broadcasting debut, this is my dad.
And sorry, Shannon, I'm the elder statesman on Boom Broadcasting now.
So would you be called Unc? No, your dad.
Dad.
Your dad. This is obviously my dad. You can call him Mac. I can call him Dad, and we can talk Dallas Cowboys. So what this will be moving forward is not only will this star-studded Cowboys network host Dad and the Boys, not only will Boom Broadcasting host Dad and the Boys, but there will be more Cowboy content creators giving you coverage on this team throughout the entire season. And if it goes well, let's do it even beyond that, because football, if you know, is a year-round type of deal. So full disclosure, was preparing what we were going to talk about today, and my dad threw a monkey wrench in the plans. What did you read that was squirming around the circles in Big D?
Well, if you're familiar with the Dallas Cowboys, you're probably familiar with the ex-scout Brian Broaddus. Brian kind of speculated to a news outlet that there is smoke that the Dallas Cowboys may be looking to trade Micah Parsons, since he would be a huge haul for them, probably more than, say, Dak or CD would garner. What are your thoughts about that, Michael?
Well, yeah, he would shocked. Hasn't won a Defensive Player of the Year award yet. I feel like if you put players, and this team, everybody can talk about free agency, how we aren't big spenders, or, we'll let people walk or whatever. They cannot say that we don't draft well. We are one of the best drafted teams in the NFL. And one of those reasons is Micah Parsons. I don't think you let somebody like that walk.
Well, and I thought about that, and I want to bring back a phrase that you'll remember coming from the words of our owner, Jerry Jones. He said, "I'm looking for a war daddy." Well, Jerry, I know that you're in court right now dealing with a custody paternity thing, but you found the war daddy. He is your war daddy every day of the week, all day on Sundays. There is not a better war daddy in the NFL. And part of the reason as fans that we put up with the fact that you don't engage in free agency is because we know that you set that money aside to retain our talent, that you draft and you race through the program. And that we want back. CD Lamb, you said it when you drafted him. You can't imagine. You could see that 88 running through in a Dallas uniform with Lamb on the back of it. But Parsons grew up a Dallas Cowboy fan. Parsons, teams have to take in game plan against him. It usually takes 2 to 3 to guard him, and they're usually holding him. Refs, you need to start calling that, by the way. He is the war daddy of our defense. He is the one player that can take over a game. Forget the trade. It can garner you picks, and I get that. But we found our war daddy, Jerry Jones. Sign the man. Back up the Brinks trucks. If you need us to buy more jerseys, we got that covered.
We should have thrown on a jersey. We'll throw on Micah Parsons jerseys if we can get him re-signed. We'll even make the extra purchases necessary. And maybe I should have called the podcast "War Daddy and the Boys."
Well, it's just that, bad thing about free agency in the NFL is that it goes and you see players that you grew up loving, and that you've grown to love over a period of time, and they're all of a sudden they're playing in a different uniform. I don't want to see Micah Parsons playing in a different uniform coming after Dak Prescott. That would be a fear.
Yeah, and this is the Dallas Cowboys podcast. If you're familiar with my work on Boom Broadcasting, I dropped an episode on Monday where I was talking with Jackson Cordray and Carson Williams about basketball. And I was going on about Luka Doncic versus Michael Jordan and the amount of passion Michael Jordan played with. I wouldn't take Luka offensively against Michael Jordan defensively, no matter the era. And for that same reason, I do not want to take Micah Parsons against anybody. Like I would not want to go opposed to Micah Parsons because that's not going to end well for Dak Prescott if he's playing Micah Parsons. Like Micah's that player who comes motivated. And for a player who gets a lot of money in the NFL, that's something you have to worry about is, hey, if I pay this guy, is he going to show up to work every day? I don't think you have that worry with Micah Parsons.
Well, you don't. Plus, I mean, you've heard our pastor say it in church. Iron sharpens iron. What better way to start Tyler Guyton to learn than Micah Parsons? Just like Micah learned from Tyron Smith, Micah will teach Tyler Guyton the ropes. He will come out of training camp better than he will probably grow as much as he did throughout college. Facing Micah Parsons day in and day out in training camp and practices. And that's the guy that you're going to be paying to protect Dak Prescott, who's probably going to end up being the highest paid player in the league when it's all said and done this year.
there's a lot of money, and of course, this is a FFSN podcast. While they do podcasts, they also do articles. I'm one of the featured writers over at Fans First, and wrote an article about how do you keep Dak and CD and Micah on the same team. And if you guys are interested, it's still up there, available whenever you would like to read that, because I feel like we need to keep all three of those players. It's possible, and I explain why more in that article. But if you are listening on our audio feed, we have to take a commercial break. On Boom Broadcasting, we'll go past the commercial break, and we'll talk about training camp here next on Dad and the Boys. Welcome back to Dad and the Boys on the star-studded Cowboys Network, powered by Fans First Sports Network, and the video feed is on Boom Broadcasting. I told you guys we were going to do a lot of shows for Boom Broadcasting, and this is just another one that we're adding to the channel. Now, Dad, it is training camp. Training camp starts tomorrow in Oxnard, and I will go ahead and give you a spoiler. If you are watching us on Boom Broadcasting, if you are listening to us on Fans First, I will say we might have somebody who will be at training camp in Oxnard this Saturday who will get to share his experience on this network. So this is why you need to subscribe to the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. In addition, go and follow the Fans First feed for the Star-Studded Cowboys Network. But it's a new year. It's day one pretty much for the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow, starting training camp. There's been a lot of questions. There's been a lot of fans who have complained on social media. And we'll be real. We'll be real on this podcast. Again, it's a father-son bonding over the Cowboys. My dad is more the optimistic guy. I'm more of the, hey, like, let's talk about this, right? Are there any concerns for you with this team headed into training camp of like, hey, I want to keep my eye on this and see how the 2024 Cowboys look?
Well, of course, we do bring back a lot of our starters, but there is 40% of our offensive line that isn't returning. Offensive line I want to see how it gels. Who's going to be playing center? Is it going to be Hoffman? Is it going to be Beebe? I want to see how Tyler Guyton does for our offensive tackle. And I'm also curious to see if he can, after a few years in the league and it's his first summer in Dallas, if he can put it together. I'm wanting to see the number 3 overall pick coming from San Fran. I want to see how he does at quarterback.
Trey Lance?
Trey Lance. He's going to get a lot of playing time throughout the preseason. I want to see how he does. I think he's got the talent. I just want to see, has he progressed? I mean, granted, it didn't work out in San Francisco, and a lot of that is Brock Purdy's fault and injuries. They say the number one ability is availability, and Brock Purdy was available, and Brock Purdy had a lot of he took the league by storm when he came in for San Fran, and so Lance became a bargaining chip, and they traded for him last year at the end of training camp, and we really didn't get to see him play at all. So I'm kind of curious to see what he's got. And does he take the number 2 spot over from Cooper Rush?
That's that I feel like that could be its whole own episode right there. The quarterback situation between Dak's contract, between Trey Lance's progression potentially, and then Cooper Rush's value. Because, I mean, hey, Cooper Rush is still the same guy a couple years ago that led the Cowboys through an injury period that Dak Prescott was out and helped us land a spot in the playoffs because of that.
Well, he went 5-1. So, I mean, Cooper Rush is your steady. He's a good team. He can manage, but that team that he manages is going to get weaker. So would that manager be enough to help propel us to those games that Dak's out, if he's out for injury or especially for an extended period of time? Because as you're paying CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, and Dak Prescott and Jerry Get It Done, other talent's going to have to subside, and it's going to be younger talent. It's going to be lesser talent, lesser well-known, lesser established talent that is going to be your supporting cast. And so Cooper, is he capable of handling that talent and making the same thing with it? Trey Lance, if he can put it together finally, he's got the talent level. He was the 3rd overall pick in the draft. Now, granted, that wasn't the best quarterback class, but he was still number 3 overall. Somebody saw something.
Well, even when he was getting drafted, I'll be honest, I didn't see much in Trey Lance. I mean, the quarterback pool from North Dakota State is Trey Lance and Carson Wentz, and both of those guys have just not proven themselves in the NFL, even though they were high draft picks.
Well, and there again, Carson Wentz, when he first came out, he was lighting the league up. It was him and Dak Prescott head to head. You didn't hear about Jared Goff, the 3rd quarterback. Actually, the first quarterback taken in that. You didn't hear about Jared Goff. You heard about Trey. You heard about Dak because he took over for Romo, of course, on America's team, and he was taking the league by storm. And it was a head-to-head competition who was going to get it between him and Carson Wentz. And Carson ends up, doing really well that year. And then the expectation was he was going to do well the next year, and he did up until he got hurt. I think that shook a lot of his confidence. I mean, I was a big Carson Wentz fan when he came out, and you know that.
But before he got drafted by Philadelphia.
Before he got drafted by Philadelphia, of course. It's the star. It's blue.
This is the no-fly zone. There will be no flying for any of those Eagles fans out there. Watching the Superior podcast for the Superior team, Dad and the boys. A big thing for training camp with me is the wide receiver room. Like, will CeeDee Lamb even show up to Oxnard for training camp? Who is going to step up? Because Brain Cooks, he's probably in the best shape of his life. But, I mean, Father Time catches us all, especially at wide receiver. But we have 2 Jalen's, Jalen Brooks and Jalen Tolbert. I wonder if one of those guys, not necessarily go, and I don't imagine any of those guys in the slot, but who's going to take over Michael Gallup's spot? Before training camp, do you have an idea or a preference for the Jalen's?
Well, on the CeeDee Lamb, I did read right before I came back here that there is the potential for a holdout if he doesn't have a contract signed. And he did go to the top of their order even before Dak and Micah in the contract preference for the Cowboys. That was being reported by Calvin Watkins, who is a beat writer there in Dallas. Me personally, CeeDee Lamb missing a little bit of time isn't the worst thing in the world. One, he's not getting injured.
That's true.
2, it does give these guys a little bit of time to spread their wings and flourish a little bit. Tolbert really came on last year, and the other Jalen, Jalen Brooks, he caught every ball that was thrown to him. You can't ask for more in the season. And then you got the kid Flourney. Ryan Flourney that was drafted this year. He, from everything I read about him in the off-season workouts and OTAs and stuff, he was really looking good. And then we've got a couple guys that, down depth chart guys. I think Cropper and Durden that were doing pretty good. Then we got a couple tight ends, John Stevens that was really doing good before he tore his ACL last year. And that's another thing I'm looking forward to in the training camp is seeing how our ACL guys are doing. Trayvon Diggs, we need you, brother. We need you bad. John Stevens and the boy that you were so high on, DeMarvion Overshawn. Coming back, all three of these guys coming back from ACLs. Where are they at in that rehab?
Man, I would love for Overshown because I was really high on him coming out of college, and of course, his rookie season finished before it ever got started, which was super unfortunate. I'm hoping the thing I'm most looking forward to in training camp, a healthy training camp. I don't want any of those repeat offenses happening to a guy like Overshown, one of these rookies coming in. I want everybody to remain healthy.
Yeah, and to see how the guys progress in Mike Zimmer's defense. Zim comes in a heck of a coach. I remember Zim from the first time around and was hated to see him leave when he left. He is a wonderful coach, and I think these guys are going to do good. And I've heard a little bit down the road here at Wake Forest, this kid Carson. I've heard reports that said that the league took him messed up because they gave a kid named Carson that's really good to Al Harris to be coached by. And what he's done with Deron Bland and Trevon, and if this kid's any good, has got the talent, Al Harris will bring it out of him. And we could have a special backfield there on the defense side where our offensive backfield is kind of a little bit shaky. Who's going to come in? We know Zeke's going to be there. Welcome back, by the way. I can don my jersey again. Thank you.
And this jersey has been like hanging up in my dad's room and signed, put away everything. And I'm like, Dad, you gonna pull the jersey out for this season?
Well, that one doesn't get worn. It's a Zeke autographed jersey, but it got to be displayed again. But I do have a Zeke that I wear for the games, and that's my preferred choice of jerseys. Zeke's one of those special players that, you didn't have the opportunity to watch in live the playmaker. Michael Irvin, hence Michael Davis.
That makes sense.
Michael Irvin is my all-time favorite Cowboy. And Michael Irvin, if you ever watch him do a pregame, you realize why. Because Michael Irvin is that player that will motivate a locker room, will motivate teammates to bring their very best on the field, in practice. He was 100% all the time. Zeke's that type of player. Zeke is the type of player that can motivate. And when he starts doing this and first down, that crowd goes crazy. The adrenaline in a teammate goes absolutely insane. Him and Micah Parsons, they are and to use Stephen Jones, they are the straw that stirs the drink.
They're the straw that stirs the drink. We got that, and we got War Daddy. So I'm excited for Dad and the Boys episode 2 for more one-liners, whatever you got cooking in there.
Yep. And you know what, Michael? One thing I do want to say before we close out this episode is, he told you that it was one guarantee in my house that he had to be a Dallas Cowboy fan, because you can't pull against the Dallas Cowboys and live in my house. You know, you can pull for anybody else in this world, but you cannot pull against the Dallas Cowboys. Dads, if you're out there and you just happen to stumble across this, you may be a Dallas fan, you may not even be a sports fan. Sports has a unique opportunity to bond you and your child. My son and I have went to ball games together. Him and his brother and me have went to sporting events, whether it be basketball, football, college football, go App State, or wrestling events. If you don't have that thing and you're looking for a team, there's room on the bandwagon with America's team. And join us for our journey as we go through this process of actually getting to talk to each other and talk to others about our team. And, you know, we talk about it a lot. We talk about it on and off the air. First time on the air, but
and many more too.
And many more, hopefully. You know, find that thing for you and your child to bond. I mean, we've had some great trips. It's time that we spent together talking, going down the road, going to a ball game, going to a wrestling event. Those are memories that you will leave behind for your child. Those are memories that you'll carry with you. And we look forward to having you as part of Boom Broadcasting and Fan First Sports Network and part of the Dad and the Boys episodes to come.
Yeah, I couldn't have said any more myself. Dad and the Boys is just one of the podcasts available on the Star-Studded Cowboys Network, powered by Fans First Sports Network. Also available video feed on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel for Dad and the Boys. We will be back on Friday afternoon at noon, and we'll be super excited to cover a little bit of what we're seeing to begin training camp. Some of our episodes, as you see, we're closer to the 30-minute mark, and sometimes that's what the conversation will determine, especially for our first episode. We want to show we have plenty of talk about, and if we had the time, we would be here all day, but he's a busy guy taking time out of his schedule. I'm a busy guy, but it's always good to take time out of the schedule for something we can do as a dad and son combo, just like going to wrestling shows, going to football games, but now doing a podcast together. So you may now return to your regularly scheduled lives. Thanks for tuning in to Dad and the Boys with Mack. I can say that now, and Michael, powered by Boom Broadcast and Fans First Sports Network on the Star-Studded Cowboys Network. And remember, this isn't our first rodeo. We'll catch you next time.